Welcome to Trouble Performing, the first recorded episode of PULSAR's regular Salon series discussing issues in contemporary performance practices, brought to you by Incident Magazine. This episode was recorded on March 13th, 2016, and I was joined by, of course, Tiff Robinette, the other half of PULSAR, along with arts writer David LaGaccia and artists Charmaine Wheatley, John Konkol, Eames Armstrong, and Honey McMoney. We talked about recent performances by, among others, Geraldo Mercado, Nugent Smith, J.J. McCracken, Lisa Levy, Stephen Lichty, Carl Cooney, and Honey McMoney. We also talked about performances at fairs like Spring Break, along with regular performance series like Trauma Salon at Panoply, and we talked about clickbait headlines, performances commissioned by institutions, a little bit of Agnes Martin, skills for the live artist, the social contract between the performer and the audience, performance crutches, and the ideal viewer, as well as the writings of Robert Bresson on cinematography and how he differentiates that from the medium of cinema, and how we can apply this same reasoning to the current performance moment. We talked for about 2 hours, so we're going to split the session up into 2 parts. We'll give you the first part now and the second part in about a week or so. So here it is, part 1. So we're here, Salon number 2 of PULSAR's Trouble Performing series. And I'll just maybe hold on to it or put it here. We can grab it if we need to for everyone talking. Maybe just like, what have people seen recently? Let's start talking about that kind of stuff. It's real easy.
Well, I was talking about earlier. I saw the show at Local Projects last night. Jenna Klein performed.
Alex Chalet?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Alex Chalet and Geraldo Mercado and a few other artists who are new to me, which I'm sorry if I don't recognize their names right off the top of my head, but they were all like food themed performances, because it was like awesome, because it was the gallery, it was the theme of the gallery as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of work on the wall was food themed, all of it was. But so it's been a quiet week, but that's what I saw this week so far. But,
was it good?
Yeah.
Well, you were saying earlier about how for one of the artists you were seeing like in that show a trajectory for them, or like seeing their work moving to a different place.
Geraldo's. Yeah, his work mainly focuses on pain, or the endurance of pain, or a threshold, if you want to call that. This is kind of, for the last couple of months, his work has been focused more on self-conscious on the idea of performing, and performance art is being self-conscious of that, about performance.
About performance itself,
yeah. Which is interesting. I would like to know why he wants to go that route. But I think that's really interesting in how I still think he's figuring things out. Mm-hmm. And how to like not make it very like, hey, this is about performance. Actually, like saying, without being very explicit about it, and having that kind of just showing more instead of telling.
Where like the performance he did at PULSAR last month was very much like that. Like, I don't know, some of you here might have seen it, but there were a lot of performance art specific references.
Yeah, like one of the actionists, Viennese actionists, and it's escaping my mind what artists he used, but like he did specific artists. Like Jenna Klein was involved in that performance as well, and she was like holding up cards that had like the artist's name on it, and then like he would like act out like kind of like famous or recreate work from that period.
Right, in that moment.
Yeah.
Like specifically Vienna Actionists or other artists?
Yeah, it was a range.
It was
kind of like
specific
about the
ones.
legacy.
Like Marilyn, but it was like a photographer as well, Marilyn Minter. I don't know if she actually has anything to do with performance.
She did like performative photographs and videos, I think.
Videos and like looking.
Yeah. I would count that in.
And he held up a card with the artist's name written on it.
Yeah.
Eames, did you see anything recently? So you're coming from DC. Anything that we might have totally missed?
Recently, the first thing that comes to mind is J.J. McCracken, who's a DC-based artist, and she did a performance at the National Portrait Gallery, which is kind of like exciting and interesting. That the Portrait Gallery is like trying to do performance, and she did a piece that it's been this like long research project about journalist in DC in the like 19th century who had a publication, and she's doing some kind of like at that time like very kind of like radical sort of feminist like stuff, but she was like convicted of being a common scold.
What is that?
Good phrasing. Wow.
It is a
nagging woman, basically.
Yeah, but it was like a thing that you could be arrested and punished for.
Whoa.
Holy shit.
And so she was like, there was like a ducking thing. She was like ducked into the river for being a common scold. And the last person to be like convicted of being a common scold is a woman who lives in New Jersey, and it happened in like the 70s.
Wow.
Is that
fairly modern.
Yeah, she's just like it's like super gendered. Like like a man is just obnoxious, a woman can be like arrested.
Right.
So JJ had like met this woman and like spent a bunch of time with her, and it was in this space in the Portrait Gallery. Portrait Gallery is a gorgeous building, and the performance series is taking place not in the sort of like there's like this big beautiful atrium, but in like in a different part of the museum that's like really kind of intricate. It's like beautiful tile and these big like low relief kind of busts of important dudes in this space. And so she made a like replica of one of them with the portrait of this woman. I can't remember her name right now off the top of my head, but this woman who was the last woman to be convicted of being a common scold.
Wow.
And like the performance was her installing it with this like huge mechanism that looked just like the ducking thing, but it was like enacted, like put together by like a team of women, and I think the woman actually was a part of it, who was did like just this like really awesome like group labor museum insertion thing.
Performance seems to be like an odd place for it in a portrait gallery. What are your thoughts on like having that in that kind of institution, that kind of museum?
I had been chatting with the curator when they were developing it. It makes a lot of sense, frankly. I mean, it's like portraiture is like about humans and like representing people, and that's like performance does that often. I mean, even just what we were talking about with Geraldo, like that's like not unrelated to portraiture, I think, and I think it's an interesting way to like recuperate that genre. And like that museum, which is like maybe potentially like sometimes a little historically stuck, but to
did she develop that piece for that space?
Yeah.
Did they fund the whole thing?
I believe so. Yeah. And it's a series that there have been 4 or 5. Wilmer Wilson the 4th, who's a DC artist I love so much. James Luna just did one. Maria Magdalena Campos Pons
yeah.
is doing one in a couple months.
Cool. You've met her, right? You know Magda from Boston?
I think I did.
Yeah. She might have come see your show there.
Yeah, I don't think I got the chance to hang out and talk with her a lot. Isn't she at the SMFA?
She teaches at the SMFA.
Right. So
Mhm.
I'll probably get to see
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, say hello.
Yeah.
I would love to see her perform, but I haven't heard of her doing a performance in like the last couple years.
Yeah,
if she's doing one, that would be really exciting.
This is a performance series.
Okay, great.
So,
Because I know she's been doing like these really interesting sculptures and photo projects, but a return to performance would be awesome.
I think it's May 14th or 15th.
Okay.
What's the performance series? Sorry.
It's called Identify.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Where?
At the National Portrait Gallery in DC.
In DC. Oh, I'm sorry.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds worth checking out. There were all the fairs last week here in New York. Anybody see any performance at the fairs?
I didn't see any performance.
Other than the performance of the fair.
Oh,
Well, there's that the performance.
The
of the
non-stop
fair.
performance, the little death we were all experiencing.
Not in the orgasmic way.
No.
Not the fun way.
Not
A
the
little
fun,
bit
a
of soul
little death.
shrinking that we're all living through or dying through.
I mean, fairs are all about selling artwork, and so how do you?
That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
We should talk about the
Especially
one we
McMoney.
saw.
I'm curious. He must have thoughts about it too with the last name.
I've never seen one.
How about that one we saw at the spring break fair?
Yeah. Well, we saw two things at spring break. We
Mhm.
saw apparently there's a kissing booth too, but I didn't see that, and I
We're not talking
don't care about
that.
it.
Yeah.
What? So we saw two things. We went to see a performance series. It was curated by Jody.
Yeah.
And then we also got there early, so we looked around the fair, and there was one booth, quote unquote,
like a room in this old hotel looking building.
Yeah, where there was a durational performance. I'm assuming had been going on for like 5 days, all day, every day, because it was just this group in that space, and the piece was called L-Dopa, like capital L-D-O-P-A.
Like a
dopamine.
drug.
Like
or something.
dopamine.
Yeah, pharmacy.
And the whole piece was really interesting, and it was something I hadn't seen before. Also, they had this like durational space, which was really nice.
Where it's like all these rooms you keep going down the hallway, seeing all these rooms, and they're all like art galleries, static work, interesting stuff, but still. And then all of a sudden we got to the end of this one hall, and there's this like immersive looking environment inside this room, and we're like very kind of curious about what's going on in there, and we follow it in, and they set it up to look like this kind of mad office or like psych ward, where there's a lot of paperwork and some like things that lead you to think about like medical treatments and stuff like that. And there were these actors or performers in there, like 5 of them, that had the script, I guess, or like these characters they had internalized and were just going off it, like on loop almost, like just not, the entire time staying in character and having it be about like these alternative medical treatments, and they were really funny.
Were you able to enter the room or just peer?
Yeah, no, you could enter it.
Okay.
They had a waiting area where you just sat
was, like,
in
the
like
audience.
folding metal chairs. And there were only like 5 or 6 chairs. It was a really narrow space, so only a few people could be in at a time.
Would you consider that installation or performance, or installation performance, or
Performance with installation,
call it,
like
yeah.
full.
It was
fully
both.
immersive.
But it was like a really good use of, I think, that fair, and like the fact that you can submit a proposal for spring break. You don't have to like kind of be chosen, be in the know so much. So
You
they
also don't
submitted
have
this
to pay
project.
$60,000 to
Yeah.
get a booth. It's free if you're.
And then they got
if you're
this whole
chosen.
room to
Oh,
play
nice.
in. It just felt like kind of a playful like experiment with performance. It seemed like it could be a good model for people we know for next year.
Yeah, we're
it was
thinking
cool.
about it.
Yeah.
There was that happy birthday room too, which was terrible.
Oh, what was that one?
It was like, write a memory from a birthday on a balloon.
What? We didn't see that.
I mean, it wasn't really a performance. It was like interactive, but it was like, I was just like, please, I gotta go. And actually, I did see that performance. I saw it from the outside very briefly, but it was like too packed around there. And I just was like, people, whatever. Next room. Because
it was small.
Yeah.
So only a few people could be in there at that time.
Let's see. Oh, John's here, so I did want to talk about something I've heard John say before. Boo Radley's here. Scratch that. It was something about like the frequency of looking at performance. Like if you feel like kind of like getting into that again, which I think is interesting. Like an idea of what happens when we look at performance a lot, which some of us do here in this little Brooklyn community of performance.
It's just like about moderation, you know. Most stuff's awful, and so like you wouldn't want to just eat like 98% of the stuff you come across, right? So that goes for music and
saying we need a Zagat rating
and like so part of it, I mean, you do have to like wade through and you care about it more than anything, right? So it's insufferable. It's insufferable when it's not magic, and the worst thing is when it's not hateable or makes you angry or frustrated, because that's just going to continue your examination of the work, which is arguably good work, despite how you feel. And
but it's just the mediocre stuff.
Yeah, it's the stuff that doesn't do anything, or you recognize it immediately and go, oh, I've seen this 100 times, and oh shit, suddenly I'm not observing this conversation. Suddenly I'm part of like the critique on somebody's undergrad work. And but I mean, that's important, but like suddenly you're just in undergrad. But it's important because you got to be there to help out these people trying. You got to start somewhere. But you also have to watch the shit.
I wanted to bring that up because there was something I found today, and maybe the conversation is going to get really Brooklyn specific, so sorry for folks from out of town. But there was this review of a performance that happened at Christopher Stout by the Daily Beast magazine, which is UK, right? I'm not wrong in that?
Yeah.
UK-based magazine. So their headline for this article is "Performance Art Goes to the Toilet." In Brooklyn, of course.
Who wrote it?
What was the
I didn't catch the author's name, but it's a review of this performance where it's like the same setup as Abramovich's The Artist is Present, but this artist, her name is Levy. I think it's Lisa Levy.
Oh yeah,
naked on the
she was naked on a toilet, set up in the same way, and the audience was invited to sit opposite from her.
Headlines of
Also on the toilet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The toilet wasn't functioning. I know it's a pun, but I'm wondering if there's not like some little jibe there at the community too that's happening that made me feel a little like, oh, damn.
I don't think it's. In that case, since Daily Beast is more of like a national publication, that it's a larger publication, I think it's more of like, I don't think art critics really know what they're looking at in terms of performance.
Yeah.
That they're coming from, let's say, all these years of looking at traditional, like, you know, even like installation work or painting or sculpture, and then they're seeing this thing that's happening, and it's kind of like, how do I describe this? How do I say make a value judgment of good or bad on this? And I think a lot of like critiques in terms of performance in like more larger publications, it's kind of like here's this thing. It's this weird thing that happened, and I don't know what to say about it. Or this performer is doing something in public that's really weird, and I think it's weird. And so I don't think that...
I know. I just got hung up on the
dialogue.
Brooklyn, of course.
Yeah,
thing.
Brooklyn,
like,
of course. I think it's
what is that trying to say about?
I think it's like
Brooklyn?
hipster kind of bashing, maybe. I don't know.
Could be.
Sure.
I mean, if writing about art is going to be a paid position, it should go to philosophers.
That's good.
Well, I have a question about like article headlines in general.
Yeah.
And this is maybe like I'm particularly interested to hear what you have to say about this.
Mhm.
Because it's like I feel often like there's like so much emphasis on having like a zinger headline.
Clickbait.
Yeah,
Clickbait,
yeah. Clickbait, yeah. That's the biz.
Yeah, that's all. And then often it's like I feel like sometimes like the name of the article is like a lot more harsh than the article itself.
It's journalism. It's a headline that's supposed to grab your attention.
Right.
And
it worked. You know?
it worked. And unfortunately, journalists think they're clever with puns, but they're not.
Well, I also think what's sensational to people outside of the performance
Yeah.
world isn't all that sensational within the performance world. It's
Absolutely.
like
Right.
the way that people can still freak out about a nude body, and you're like,
Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, everything with that
Was she nude?
performance
Was she
she was
nude all the
naked,
time?
yeah. But everything about that performance was just like it had like the easy to talk about thing. Naked, toilet Duchamp, Marina Abramovic, everybody loves to hate her.
Right.
I mean, and then done, like, you
Yeah.
just, and...
how long did
don't-
it last?
I think
A
it
few
went on
days.
for
2 days.
1 or 2 days, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And people would come in and I found it quite tedious, the performance, and that it was getting so much play, and I feel bad about it because the people, there are connections that I have with, like,
Say no more.
so, but I still think that, was it not just a bit tedious, that piece?
Well, there's something else
You
here
know,
too
it's-
from that article that's interesting. So in that article,
Not boring.
they quote Levy as saying, "The art that gets attention to the mass media is the stuff at the top of the art market," like in reference to Abramovich. But that doesn't necessarily overlap with art that's furthering culture and enriching people's lives. But this is obviously coming in an article where her performance is also getting attention. So it's not just the stuff that's at the top of the art market, but it's also like stuff that's imitating the aesthetics of stuff that's at the top of the art market. That also,
It's a picture that everybody can go, oh, I understand what's going on.
Right.
here.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
easily get those references, and I don't feel like an idiot if I, go and see this, and oh, it's always great to see a naked person on a toilet. Like,
Yeah.
it's
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice.
no.
Not today. Mediocrity.
yeah.
It's almost like a real world meme.
I feel bad for saying it out loud.
No, don't feel bad.
No.
That's what we're all thinking.
It's like that setup, that horizontal image of the seats opposite each other that Abramovich's performance like popularized. Now you do a version of that, and you're almost like guaranteed at least a few minutes in the spotlight.
In terms of that gallery, do you think it was? We can only speculate, but do you think it would be easier to sell that performance at that gallery because it says Abramovich?
And what do you mean sell?
Yeah.
Just
What do you
mean?
getting people in the door?
Well, I mean, in terms of selling it to the people who run the gallery, it's like I'm going to do this performance.
So
Oh,
And that's
that's
why galleries want to do
Yeah.
performances, because it gets
Attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
quickly.
And-
like, nobody's going to come and go see some great painting of a naked lady on a toilet.
right.
Yeah.
But a real naked lady, you can go and look at her.
Any press is good press.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
they say,
I think if it's a reference, it's super desirable to like money-driven, profit-driven galleries. If it's like there's a built-in Abramovich reference, they're like, okay, that's as close as we can get to cashing in on
You can
Abramovich.
sample, and it's still not legally. We're still in the age of like you can legally sample whoever
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
in performance art without royalties.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if that day will ever change.
Yeah.
If we'll
Well,
start, like,
I don't think-
Who's gonna be the two live crew of performance?
Wait, is this sampling or did you?
That's, when Arnie entered presenters and people actually get paid for doing performance. I was talking about it with, I was thinking, there's this, my friend Stephen Lichty, he did a performance at the Noguchi Museum, and he shows with Foxy Production. And he put together...
Such a familiar name. Stephen Rick.
Yeah, that sounds
Is
familiar.
it? Do you know?
I'm sorry, go on.
Well, I mean, just in terms of, he gave the gallery, like, this is what I need to do this performance. Could you sort of advocate for me? I shouldn't probably be going on the record, but it's very important, I think, as performance artists to be getting money.
Yeah.
And the sum wasn't ridiculous. And the gallery just didn't know how to, they didn't do it. So he didn't get any. And so when I went to see his performance, this is part of it. This informs the moment. The bitch at the front desk at Noguchi, she was like, I'm sorry, but she was like, I was just like maybe a minute late, and I knew it was going to be a quiet performance, and I've never been to the Noguchi Museum. And she gave me some loose directions. I went off trying to follow them. I failed. I came back. She got huffy with me. And I knew I should be quiet. And
You're disturbing all the rocks.
Something. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that informed my reading of the performance.
Sure.
And then even when the performance was over, it was all in the dark, and it was an extended, it was a beautiful performance, slow motion, just very contemplative. But I had that bitch on my mind as I was and then at the end comes Dude, like, who's the head boss and he's immediately lights on, like from pitch black darkness to lights on, get out.
Abrupt, yeah.
And I think my experience is when you ask for your needs, financial, because we are, it's that kind of society.
In terms of an artist, as an artist.
As an artist, to get paid, then value is, they might not know how to, and I don't think that bitch would be talking that way to somebody coming in to his performance. I think it would have, he got paid nothing. And then that was the aura around it. It wasn't valued, and it was a fucking amazing performance. And I think that's something that galleries need to learn how to do, how to value a moment. It doesn't have to be some stone sculpture in order for it to be of value. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before. I mean, the shit that I take into the shrink is from when I was 5 years old, something my dad said. Whatever, like...
Is there anything more ephemeral than a therapy session, and how much that is valued?
I mean, and when you take it to the therapy, and you have to pay them, so it does have an impact. These moments that are being created as performance artists, these questions that we are sharing, they're important.
Yeah.
And we do have realities, like it. When we're thinking about it, when we're working, we have like real expenses, rent being one, food, putting shit into a truck and getting it to the location, or and that still, like Carolee or Marina Abramovic told me when I saw that panel discussion that she did at NYU, she said that she was only making money in this was about 8 years ago or something, I don't know. And she said she was only making money in the past 7 years. I think since she started showing with Sean Kelly and making photographs.
Yeah.
But up until that, like heart-wrenching experiences, I can friggin', and you have to be a mad hustler. And then people, that instills in you this kind of like hustler attitude, and you have to, it gets you into trouble. I think a lot of the criticism of her is her trying to do what she can do to do performances, and people, not paying her, or it's a big problem if you don't get paid for doing a performance. Like, I mean, but then there is the whole Kanye West, or like how much they get paid, and then can you trust it? Like, does that cheapen it to put money on it? The same thing with other art, which battles have been, fought and won, and some success has been, but still, like, often you can buy an artwork for less than the frame it costs to put around the artwork. So we're still, it's a big issue for me. Like the whole money thing. And Carol Lee, mad hustle her whole life, like trying to get a gallery to take you.
Get the fuck out of here.
What did you find? I thought I saw like a spider was hanging from the hair. I was sitting here like perfectly still. Like
Boo Radley's gone on a little bit of a tangent.
Oh, my bad.
Anyway, sorry I went on it on my
No,
own.
it's okay. I'm so sorry. I'm
Break
sorry.
from
No,
the
I'm so
tangent.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I
I'm
get
so
a little
sorry.
biblical.
No, I'm so
Religious
sorry.
or-
I'm glad you
So-
responded to that. Well, I have some quotes I'm going to bring up from that.
What is that?
What is that?
we're,
Sorry.
we're talking about a Robert Bresson like diary book that I found really
Empty the
inspirational.
lake. Get the fish by draining the pond.
My God, you just totally quoted it. That's a great quote from that book. Yeah. So to set that up a little bit, it's a book where the French director Bresson is talking about the differences between cinema and what he terms cinematography.
You want to
So-
pull things from this all day.
From his perspective, cinema, which here we sometimes use as like a more avant-garde version of film or movies, for him, cinema is kind of like the baseline that's very in debt to theater, and cinematography is this other kind of artistic expression coming out of Europe post-war that is trying to do something totally different with the medium of film. And what I've been talking to Tiff about lately is how there's a lot of parallels that we can draw from that and the current experience with performance, where at the time of his writing this, it's kind of been like a half century of film. And we're at the point where we're just about, if you go by like kind of accepted origin points, we're like at the half century mark of performance, and maybe thinking along similar lines of like what the future of this medium is.
I guess
1965, is that?
I don't have a hard date.
Yeah,
This
I
was
just
just like a
vague-
reeling back
yeah,
in my
just like-
mind with.
Yeah, honey, this one's for you. What I reject as too simple is the thing that is important and that one must dig into. Stupid mistrust of the simple things.
Are we talking about cinematography in terms of as a medium, or like watch a movie?
Terms
The
began-
cinematography, or in terms of like
Not
how
the
a shot is framed?
not the craft of like the cameraman, but
Okay.
like as something as a medium itself, separate from cinema,
Okay.
kind of like photography,
Yeah.
cinematography.
I mean, never even mind the terminology. He's simply talking about like an industrial situation in which he's realizing there's like a motif, there's a pattern, or a like set of rules or crutches that is going to be established or is already established within the film industry, right? And it's going to be how you judge a film from that point onward,
Right.
versus like say how video art is looked at.
Mhm.
And he's saying that there's two kinds of films. There's films that follow, that are stuck in all these like horrendous traditions of theater, and given that film is not theater and therefore there's no like live audience, you're creating nothing. You're not making a play and you're not making a film, because a film has nothing to do with a play. You know, so how this translates to performance art is
Although they
that
both share like an imperial view.
right. Well,
Just saying.
you want to elaborate on that?
Well, like there's a position where the king sits and observes,
hmm
and that's true of both theater and cinema or
Yeah.
film or whatever.
Traditionally, yeah.
Yeah, there's a outward point, right?
hmm
But there's like the central observation point that the whole thing is just
Which there's
Like
going
every
to
Sydney
be a
arch.
best seat
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Oh, that's really good. Anywho, so the parallels are that they both take bodies and they both take light and eyes to see them, et cetera, et cetera. They all have these things in common, but they're inherently different as things. Like, in order to have theater, you need a live audience to receive it. And in order to have film, you don't need that. Like, a film can just be a film, right? And it can. And,
he's talking about the legacy of theater in cinema at that point. And it's something that comes up with performance a lot too, like what
to make a
our
film,
relationship is to theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To make a film, you don't even need people. You know what I mean? You need film and like some light. Basically, is all you really need.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
Yeah.
it.
Can I interject?
Yeah, please.
yeah.
I've got like 100.
If we go back to this idea of critics looking at performance, I think it's also again that they think that they should critique this on let's say how you would probably critique theater, or maybe it's something related to theater because it's live bodies in a space that's creating art and metaphor with their actions. And so, but again, they're two separate mediums in terms of how they go about creating that metaphor.
Well, one thing he says in that book is, or more like a call, he says, production of emotion determined by a resistance to emotion. So he's like talking about the way, it's kind of like show versus tell, how he sees it as ineffectual when you have an actor trying to represent an emotion for you rather than seeing an actor go through an emotion, and likewise a film not showing you someone crying to let you know you should also feel sad, but showing you through a juxtaposition of imagery and sound and context and a montage that will elicit a feeling in you.
Yeah.
On the theater, it's on the outside,
Right.
and on the film.
So how does this apply to performance and the way performers today are trying to work with like empathy and emotion and representing rather than experiencing things?
We can say where that went wrong. I mean, that's like an easy example of like somebody trying to evoke an emotion in you, and you're just like,
Right.
no, I feel like you're ridiculous, and I feel awkward, and I feel like sympathetic just because I'm sad you're doing this right now.
Right.
I also,
I don't feel
regularly-
what you're trying to make me feel.
You know, and I regularly fuck with the line between those two. Like
Yeah.
I'm constantly
I find
somewhere
humor in your
addressing.
Yeah.
I think what I try to do is take you as far as possible of making that jump for you to want to jump and go, oh, he's representing something, and then when you jump, I just don't catch you and let you fall because I'm not. And so, but I make it as small of a gap to make you feel as comfortable as possible to want to leap, and I'll still let you fall in the pit. But
when I see your work, it's weird because my reaction to your work, I find humor in your work, but I also find you would be like, yell at like a fake, prop or not prop, but object that it's in the shape of a child, and it's like in a real setting that would be like unsettling or kind of like why are you doing this? But I guess in terms of my reactions, it comes off as humorous.
sure.
I've seen your work, John. Are you aware of the humor?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're very
yeah.
conscious of it. You do it.
I mean, I think
Or does
things
it
are
just happen?
funny. I think things are funny.
Yeah.
I always want someone to take something away from my work, but what they take away from, I couldn't possibly predict. But if someone's like a humorless cunt, that's not my fault. But, so I really like to play with objects that seem representative or as close to that gap of representing something Even if it's like, even
It's
if
just an object.
even if it can only be described as like, yes, this is, he had a like object that looked like a child or
Yeah.
a small baby doll. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And all that happened was Konkol held a baby doll,
Yeah.
and then spilled SpaghettiOs on the floor,
Yeah.
and yelled at the doll,
Yeah.
or yelled at the thing, you know, and what it was representative of
Yeah.
is nothing.
But you're
Yeah.
giving us these images, but you're not like telling us what to do with them.
Absolutely.
Where I think we can agree we've all seen like a performance that gives you a certain set of things and then says, "Here's how I feel, and thus how you should feel about
Yeah,
them."
Thus, absolving you of having to do anything.
Right.
And
Then you
even
just
worse,
It's
when
making
someone
it's
represents-
making the audience or the observer or spectator, whatever word you'd like to use, come to their own conclusions of what may have happened, or
Give me an
Or
example
not
exactly
conclude
of
any-
her-
or not conclude anything.
Give me a
Or
moment
specifically
where that-
not conclude.
I mean, there was something recently at one of the Trauma Salon events, happens here at Panoply, usually in Brooklyn, where it was, I don't remember the person's name, otherwise I would say, but it was a piece that dealt with like recovery from drug and or alcohol abuse, I don't remember, but it was so...
Is this the Because I Was Broken piece?
Are you
Yeah,
lying,
it was that
John?
piece.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I just was
Worst
thinking of
piece
something-
ever! I'll say it.
I mean,
Honey, please elaborate what you were going to say when you said even worse.
and
I
this
wanna
is
hear
not,
it.
and this is not like any kind of judgment on the person.
No.
It's like as a performance, it was
attention.
it was awful because there was no room, there was almost no need for an audience. It was just like we were a large mirror for this person to see themselves in and hopefully go through something, and that's fine. But it could have easily been done without us there. And so for an audience to be there and experience that, it was really painful because it was all very like, this is what happened to me in my life. It was awful. There is no room to think of it as
And it
anything
didn't
but
even feel
awful.
that honest.
And it didn't feel honest either. You're right.
Yeah.
It didn't even feel like the story was true. It just felt like it was like attempting to wrangle this like false catharsis out of all of us or something. And
Right.
it was like, ugh, horrible.
How long
Really
did it go on for?
Too long.
Forever.
Well, brevity. I mean,
It was
that's like,
20 minutes / like 5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I haven't seen that performance artist before. I probably won't see his work again. It might have been a one-off in his life where he just like felt he
Right.
needed to make something and was asked to do
Hopefully,
something. But I hope that if he ever makes anything again, it will not be that.
Well, and I rarely like you have these horrible experiences watching people's performances. I feel like I rarely hold them against them personally because
Yeah.
it's like there's so many
Yeah.
more horrible things one could do than
Right.
present the worst performance piece ever.
They didn't kill a kitten.
Exactly.
You know, like nobody
But
died.
as a
And maybe after
just
doing like such a
excruciating.
horrible thing, like maybe now can he do so horrible twice? Like maybe it could.
You know, one always
Turn around,
wonders just when you
hopefully.
think you've hit the bottom.
I mean, let's not overlook the fact also that when people do really, really horrible things, that's not necessarily, their fault either.
Well, this is a big part of why we're doing this is because there's a huge lack of like feedback, honest feedback from the audience when something like that happens. So usually, whether it's something like that or it's something that's really spectacular, you'll get the same reaction, which is the clap.
Saying that.
All right, so I want to ask this question for everybody. I'll ask a question for everybody. If we have this idea of like, okay, we see these performances that are lacking in quality or something that makes it really good, but I still find myself going to the shows. Why do we still come back to see performance? Why are we still watching these performances?
Because when you see good performance art, it makes the last fucking 6 years worth living.
Right,
When you see
right.
good performance, the whole universe opens right up. You
Yeah.
can crawl through every single dimension
That
you want to.
moment
Yeah.
of perfection.
Fix
That's
things.
Agnes Martin in her writings.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Like you go through, you have those moments of perfection, too few and far between. But
It's like you have to
once
sort out
reach
all
it,
the
Yeah.
you're
the
like,
chaff
it gets
and
you
find
out of bed again.
And it's
How
why
to
we
get
make
there.
it, and it's why we believe in it, and it's why we can't be that mad at people who are trying and suck.
Yeah,
But because
it's part of the process.
a man can't live on bread alone. You
Well-
need artwork.
I think it can also seem like and especially right now with like the sort of like performance art sort of like trending or having trended, that because it can seem so like sloppy and errant, that it like sort of doesn't really point to the fact that it actually takes a lot of practice and thought.
Yeah, it's
and
really
like you
hard.
can tell
Support.
when people have like put the hours actually
Yeah.
into that practice, and like often it does in fact show, and like people can easily get up and be like, it's my first performance piece, and it's just like, oh my god, you're doing that right now, fuck. And I feel like because it's just so, it can seem so
It's living
random or
like,
something
I know,
that
like
it's
my
like
personal
not.
life is like it's directly in relationship. Like going through a horrible personal relationship, it can either make it sing and be fantastic or be the shits. Like that canvases and paper, they're so safe. You just put them on the wall.
Well, you've got
sift
like
through the ones that didn't really work out. And not put those on the wall. But performance, I mean, like, it's just...
you got, what is it, like 5 seconds for a painting on the wall. First one to look at. 30 seconds to 5 minutes if it's a really good video. But the worst performance art, everyone's going to be looking at that. There's Duchamp on the wall. There's the best paintings in the world on the wall. And everyone's watching the atrocious performance art because there's a body there, there's a heartbeat there. It's way more interesting.
It is.
It's where the action is. It's going to end soon. I can look at this painting later.
Yeah.
It's only happening right now.
And it's a very little commitment. Well, and also it's like I take comfort in. I don't hang on to the shit that's not sparkly or interesting or doesn't bring me down.
It's called baggage. You shouldn't hang on to the...
Yeah, you don't. And so the performances that didn't shine so bright, people aren't going to remember them. And if they do want to repeat them, then they're going to tell the parts. They're not going to bore their audience with like the boring, tedious stuff that didn't work. They're going to tell their perception of what worked. And it might not even be true, and that's based on maybe even like what they think of you. Like it's. I like how it lives on in the telling, or not.
The conversation
It can die out if it needs to. Thank God, like that gives me freedom to like take more action and be in the process. What do you think, John? No, what? No.
Oh no, I mean I think you're right.
I'd really like to hear this like moments of universe opening or moments of perfection. I'd really like to hear like what some recent experiences of that have been for
Oh, I can go on record and saying every time I've seen Nugent Smith perform, he's always done a good performance.
He was first at that thing, right?
We saw
Nugent
that
Smith.
for Greg. Yeah.
What I was just wondering was actually like not even recent, but what for all of us like go around. What was the first one that you like saw in person that you went, oh, performance art, and you saw it in its very specific,
Very
not
pure
theater,
form,
not anything else form when you recognized it.
I have to think about that.
I have to think about that. I don't know.
No, I was just gonna go while people are thinking and say I totally agree about Nugent. I think just thinking on the pieces of his that I've seen, what makes him very attractive to me as a performer is his awareness of the space he's performing in and the audience that's watching him, what he's doing, and how his body relates to all those things. And he's someone who can like very successfully take not only like how the audience is responding to his piece in the moment, but also like what performances have just happened before him or will happen after him in the lineup of a performance night, and he'll work that into his performance, and it's just like this awareness of the context that he's in that makes you feel, I think it makes you feel connected. It makes you feel like this is a performance that's not selfish, that's bringing you and the architecture and the whole context into it, and that makes you feel like kind of enlivened to be there watching it.
What's his name? I thought his name was
Nugent Smith. Nyugen. So.
Performing next week at PULSAR.
Yes.
Okay.
Plug. But no, in terms of like, I can as much as you say there's like people who work that you don't really enjoy. I can probably name like artists that 95% of the time they're going to at least
More times than not,
they're going to put in a good performance.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's what.
And I think whether that's part of like
That's terrifying to hear.
with preparation, or like if that goes in preparation as their artist, or just how comfortable they are with their practice, and how established they are with understanding their body in the live space, and I think that
That's
maturity as an artist, I think that all has to go into it. In
Right.
terms of,
Are they kind of using these certain set of skills as a performer that makes their work exciting, whether it's like successful or not?
Mhm.
That's a question I have. Like whether or not like a certain idea lands or it fails, are they exciting no matter what because of this certain set of like performance skills that are techniques that they use? Something I've been thinking about.
I really think.
What are the performance skills even?
Whether
I think it's like awareness or something.
Yeah, whether we can
Yeah.
define them yet.
Yeah.
If we even define what it takes
Extreme
to put in a performance.
empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy,
In a way.
consideration, awareness of yourself within
Awareness-
the greater.
Yeah.
But
Awareness
that's
of
a
audience.
specific type of performance artist. Like
It
I don't
is.
know if it does take
Right, then
empathy.
there's
For
that.
me, it takes vacancy almost, if that makes any sense.
It takes
I
a
was thinking
really
more about that.
probably like a
He's
high.
before about
I'd say
that.
all
No, I
around a
thought you
high
knew about that.
tolerance, maybe pain tolerance, conceptually pain tolerance.
I think we have to like get away from, at least me personally, I don't like using words like presence. Like I don't like
It's so vague.
it's so vague, so undefinable,
Yeah.
and it's like
What do you give at Christmas? Gifts, I guess.
yeah.
Well, what is charisma? It's a fascinating question.
True.
Yeah.
What
But-
is it?
What is it?
Yeah, but like I think there, I think in terms of being able to talk about work, I think we're still figuring out in terms of understanding how it works and how we can communicate those ideas.
Well, are there inherent like skills that a performer across the board should have? Is what I'm wondering. And is the employment of these kind of like the gauge of a successful performance, regardless of content and these things? Charmaine, hand furiously raising in the air.
A need to want to be in the spotlight, but extreme discomfort with being in the spotlight. I think, as characterized, perfectly, beautifully with Yayoi Kusama's, when she's like the performer, but then she camouflages herself with the polka dots that match everything that she's wearing. I mean, does everybody feel that? I feel that. Like, I want, and then I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And the stress and the, oh my, the kind of like, I have this thing to say or I want to share it, but is it good enough or that kind of, I don't know, is that it? Is that something?
That's something, but I don't think that's only it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And I don't think that it's not
Many,
necessarily
many
like
layers.
it's not a need to be in the spotlight. It's just I mean it is only via that you have to be there, and even that you don't have to.
Not
You can write a piece for
necessarily.
someone else, whatever. But if you know that you're the only one that knows how to say it, and that the only way for you to say it is to be there, then you have to. And that doesn't mean. I mean, and for
But even
me,
if you're not-
it's pretty painful to do, and so it's not like a need to be there, other than a need to make this specific type of work that I just have to go. I have to go to make it. Does that make sense? Like it's not like I kind of get anything beneficial to my psyche from applause or from being there, but I have to be there so that the work's done and done right.
So there's like an importance to doing it live with an audience. Do you agree? Is there an element of that?
I have to make functioning performance artwork, which for me most of the time requires me being there and viewers to receive the work.
Right. So is there a certain engagement that a performer needs to have with the audience for that to be like understood and successful, or is there a way that the performer can alienate or totally disengage the audience, making the whole experience kind of irrelevant?
I was going to bring this. I was going to. But this is what I was going to say about what an artist needs. It's just like an understanding of like the social contracts between an audience and spectators in the space and what they're doing, and like just being respectful that there are people here, you know, watching you, and it's not just all about you. There's people here that you're going to be either interacting with in your performance or actually just going to be just watching you. So I think I respect for like the understanding the social contract that's being made between spectator and artist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't like, you know, put, you know.
Are we defining good performance art again?
I'm
actually with you, because if we're about good performance art, like honoring the social contract is actually maybe the only thing. If I was going to like suddenly jump in and be like, honor the social contract. Yeah. That's actually the only thing it requires to make a good piece.
Let's talk about the social contract.
Well, I mean, but is there good performance that like purposefully doesn't honor that?
Sure, I mean,
maybe it's more about like an awareness.
But it's still aware
of, if you're violating the social contract, you need to know that you're fucking trampling on everyone's like you're keeping us here for another fucking 45 minutes for this bullshit. Like, you need to know that.
If you do that unconsciously, that is unconscionable. You know? That's just like, that's so hard to take as an audience, because you can feel it.
And I personally
you're saying rude changes if you're aware of it?
If the performer is doing something...
You can get away with rude if you know you're doing it.
If the performer is doing something intentionally or not, yeah. And if they're doing something rude to me as an audience member, and I notice it, I can kind of even get with it. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for like totally breaking our comfort zone, making us go through this awful thing.
I'm furious. I'm going.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, it's probably good, right?
I don't know if we can say all that. I don't know if we can say that.
I think that we should separate the ideas of putting you outside your comfort zone and having the social contract. I think work that puts you out of your comfort zone is, I think, a quality, at least for me, that I think, okay, I'm seeing something that is moving me in some direction.
Yeah.
Captain Yule says that one spectatorship becomes an object within the work or something like it's the necessary part. But it goes back to what you're saying, is that relationship between the audience and the performer. Mm-hmm. Like, you're on the same level. Yeah.
I can give a good example of a bad performance that kind of broke the social contract. It was 2 years ago at Bush Bazaar. I don't recall the artist's name. And what happened during the performance is like literally there was destruction of property in the bar. Like a table broke, and like the person like got up on the table and then like they're like rocking back and forth until it started breaking the table. And I think that's going. You're taking too much of a.
It wasn't a good performance.
It wasn't a good
because
performance.
We wouldn't be talking about the table if the performance was good.
And like,
pay for the table.
And like, if I was like, if I was the owner of that space, that gallery, or if it's a gallery, or if it's a bar, or wherever, I would be pissed off.
Yeah, it was a bad performance.
I think all these things matter. Like, if the performer's
breaking more tables, I feel like a bit.
It's like if the performer's conscious, and what's the intention behind it? Is it a crutch? Is doing something like that a crutch for a bad performance, or if it's totally necessary for this like experience?
Crutches are okay if it's awesome. If it works, crutches are fine.
Then I think it doesn't become a crutch at that point.
It's not. That's not a crutch.
Yeah.
Well, and I think if you're getting up and you don't have anything to say, but you need to take a long time to do it, it's really fucking troublesome. Mm-hmm. Like if you started with nothing and you're just taking a long time to do it, it's just like, why the fuck are we all here right now?
Right.
Yeah.
And it happens all the damn time.
That can happen from being ill prepared or not being understood.
Or just thinking that you know something about performance art because you've seen it a few times and like now you're like, you signed on to the fucking thing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, honey.
Yeah, you can also be married to someone 70 years and have no fucking idea who they are. I don't care how much performance art you've seen. That doesn't mean you've seen shit.
Yeah.
But there's the
A
other
possession of knowledge is not an implementation of understanding of that knowledge.
Yeah.
You know?
There's the other thing too, where you'll see somebody and they don't commit to an action.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that pisses me off, I think, the most out of anything I see.
Was it like 150 onions Carl brought?
Oh.
175? Oh, it seems like we just dropping names like that. Boo Radley! I need another drink.
That's what we're doing because we want things to get better.
No, we want things to get
I
better,
agree.
so it's
If
fine.
you bring a huge bag of onions, Carl, I want to see you cut all the onions.
Yeah,
Well,
you
okay,
cut
all the fucking onions. Not one, not a nibble.
This
No, all of
clarification.
them.
Until you die.
When did this happen? What was this?
Okay,
It's kind of
this
like the cardinal
was...
rule of filmmaking. If you
This-
see a gun,
Unless,
gun better pop fire.
unless you're playing with the expectation, knowing that we all want to see how those onions cut up,
Yeah.
which wasn't the case.
No, obviously.
What did
What?
he do? He brought a bag of onions and he cut them, but he didn't
No, he
eat
only
them, or
cut
he
one. No, he only cut
This
one.
guy brought like a
And he had this,
300-pound bag of onions. And
That's not
cut
even bringing
one.
you close to orgasm and then dropping you.
No, that's all like he like comes down to the
Yeah.
blows at it and then walks over. You know, that's
Not
it.
even blowing. That's just like,
Oh, awful.
oh, Carl.
So what performance was it? Who? What are we referencing?
It was the worst night of performance I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, this was another trauma salon,
Okay.
I believe. And Carl, who doesn't usually work on his own, he does sound, which he does really
Okay,
excellently.
okay.
And he does some video. He's great, but he had a huge bag of onions, and this is just like a case in point. This isn't like attack Carl or anything. This is like case in point where somebody brings in a shit ton of something and then only uses like one piece of that item that they brought in. So like, why the fuck did you bring all this stuff in?
Well,
If-
what it is a timing issue and space. Like it's a performance issue.
These are the skills I was talking about, John. It's timing, right?
Yeah.
Because he goes, how many am I going to need? How many am I going to use?
Exactly.
And what am I committed to? And what you see is obscured by clouds. Pink Floyd just got Gilmore. They lost their primary songwriter. No, they don't know what they're doing. They're feeling each other out. So there's not a song over 5 minutes long, but you still hear the next 10 Floyd albums. And that's this kid's like first performance piece, right? You can see his next like 10 pieces he wants to do, and he's just crammed them all inside.
Maybe you should
Into one
all
song.
be just grateful he only cut one onion because he finally got up there and he's like, oh, this is kind of a stupid idea. Just cut the one and be out of here.
No, but it's like
spared
you
your
know,
audience.
But like commit
It's somebody learning
to
the
an
process.
action
And,
though.
Yeah.
That's like part of it is like intentionality. Like I'm going in there, I have all this shit, I'm gonna do something with
and
it.
everyone went in there
Don't
would
bring
have
in
preferred.
anything that you don't need.
We
He
would
might
have
not
preferred
be a
60 minutes of him
performance
just cutting onion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just
I don't know.
That
committing
night-
to one
that
action
night
is
for
way
sure.
better than like being half-assed about 12 dozen. Like,
And
I did
to
just say
contrast
12
that,
dozen.
And why is it better?
contrast that, your roll of tape.
The tape, just that thing.
You use that whole roll of
Super
tape.
annoying. I'm
Yeah.
sure. There it
At the
was.
Queen's Museum, live art, U.S.
Did that drive people crazy? I'm just
It did drive me crazy.
Good.
But I recognize
stuff.
I recognize
But
while it was
commitment.
happening that this was one of the most successful performance pieces I had seen in a long time. And this is regardless of like aesthetics, content, whatever. This is just like this person knows how to perform. I keep like going
And you
back to
even
these
knew
like
when it would end too. The ending was already prepared.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you had
Knew that there
going
was
back
an
to
end to it.
skills, there was like a sense of drama that I knew you had and were very like familiar with because you were able, like Hitchcock can play up suspense in a film, like you were able to take us on an emotional ride just
Well, so
based
that's
on your
simple
commitment
action.
to
It
a
was simple
material,
action.
commitment to an action and a material, and it felt totally intentional the entire time. It wasn't just like arbitrary.
And that was Honey
I will say
McMoney
thank
at Brooklyn Museum, by the way.
Queens.
You're also,
Queen's Museum.
you're also, as a performance artist, an ideal viewer because you're willing to put the work in, and as a viewer, and you're familiar with like you have expectations or not, or maybe just some hopes of what you want viewers to put in or meet you in the middle on how much work you put in to your work. You know.
What did you do, honey?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's
So I unrolled a roll of masking tape with my feet.
With his toes on tiptoes
On-
the
I had
entire
to be on
time.
tip-
Did you
Tiptoes.
practice very much before?
Oh, I tested it out.
You tested it out, but you didn't go through
I
rules
didn't go.
practicing?
No.
And when the tape was out, the piece was over.
Yeah.
Were you sitting in a chair or on the floor?
We're
Standing.
standing.
On tiptoe. He was like this, and then he would have like the roll of tape on its side, and then would go out, and then tiptoe
I thought you were
over.
making a pattern, like a specific pattern at first, but no, I didn't.
I was just trying to get the tape unrolled.
Do we get 10-minute breaks every 40 minutes like a jury?
Yeah. Can we do that?
Have you done
you
that?
got it.
I'm gonna take a break.
Into substances in this.